Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to be doing another Phantasmal Flames pre-release build and battle strategy relating to the fighting deck. We went to our second pre-release event, me and my son did, and the first event we pulled the Dark deck and the Psychic deck. We have videos on those posted previously to this one. We went to a second one the following night and we got another Dark deck, but we got the fighting deck. So we're just going to go over the fighting deck, and I went a little bit, the fighting deck was the one that I got. I went a little bit crazy, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to put it, with what the changes that I made to this deck. But the goal with this deck is with the signature ability for the promo card Flygon, where every time you evolve into Flygon, your opponent discards 2 cards from their deck, and then every time Flygon is knocked out, they discard 2 cards from their deck. So with one Flygon, you're discarding 4 cards of their deck, and that's 10% of their deck. And in a 40-card deck, combined with them drawing cards and everything, it does tend to run them really thin. The third game, I actually decked the opponent out. They were using the Dark deck, and I was able to have them run out of cards because Flygon has the most HP of the promos. The only card that has more HP than it is the Crocodile from the Dark deck. But the fighting deck, between all 4 decks, it is my opinion that the fighting deck was a slight favorite as far as being the best pick in terms of strength. It's not weak to any of the other 3 typings, Fire, Psychic, or Dark. It has a double, it has a weakness advantage over some of the Dark deck. And then Flygon specifically isn't going to get one-shotted by anything except the Cerulege. So, and it can hit for 130, but there's 2 premium power pros for the fighting deck to bump this up another 30 damage, so you can basically KO anything, one time. But, so we saw a lot of success with the fighting deck, and the goal with the fighting deck is you're just trying to lengthen the game out as much as possible and use your Flygons to deal as much damage as possible, while also making them discard cards when they do eventually take it out during the game. Again, it's got 150 HP. So the goal with the fighting deck, you just want to prolong the battle as long as possible, honestly. With you have 3 Flygons, so if you lose all 3, that is, let's see, 4 cards per fly. That's 12 cards that they're discarding right there. And after you're starting with 7, you've got some on the field. They really have at the start of the game, they've got about 23 to 25 cards in their deck. So you're discarding half of them with Flygons alone. So if you can make the battle last 6 turns, combined with them using draw supporters and other things in their deck, they're probably going to run out of cards. So we got the Flygon line. Of course, we've got Lilies. We're not worried about, unless you go against another fighting deck, you're not really worried about being decked out. But Flygon line, obviously, fighting energies. You want to get to your Flygons as quickly as possible, so that's where the Lilies and the Hildas come into play. Sometimes you'll want to switch out. Yeah, this deck did come with 3 Flygons. Another Pokemon it came with is the Gliscor and Gligar line, which both of them poison the opponent, but if you get up to Gliscor, it does 50 damage and they can't retreat along with being poisoned, all for only 1 energy, and it is 120 HP, so it's difficult to KO for a lot of the opponents. There's only a couple cards that'll take it out in 1 hit. We've got Dawn to help get our Flygon line specifically started up. Fighting Gong, so you can seek out your basics, your Trapinches, so you can, there's also, I believe there's some rare candies in here to help. Yep. It's rare candies, so you can go straight from Vibrava, or straight from Trapinch up to Flygon really quickly. And we're about to get into the change. I went kind of crazy. So unnecessarily, I didn't really need to do this, but it kind of does play in with the deck and what it's designed to do. You're trying to lengthen the game out as long as possible, so they draw as many cards as possible. So you want to add some bulk to the deck just to make them, have to go through multiple turns to try and knock something out. and we're about to get into those changes right now. Another rare candy. So here we go. So I was fortunate enough. I added Psychic. You're about to find out why. I added, what, like 4? Because I pulled the Zacian. And the reason I did that was, one, just to be different. And it's cool that I have, 2 of the promos in one deck. I was able to pull it. But also the reason I went with Zacian is, after they knock out my first Pokemon, now it's going to be my hardest hitting card. It does 140 versus the 130 that Flygon does if I don't have a premium Power Pro. But then we also pulled Mega Diancie. And Mega Diancie for this, even if it was just to sit out there and take damage, because of its ability, it takes 30 less damage. So unless they're hitting you with their bulkier Pokemon, it's not going to be taking any damage, which is multiple turns that they're going to have to go through just to be able to damage it. And then you retreat from 1. So I basically played, I would have 1 Psychic on Zacian, and then, the other attack, or the other part of the attack is just a color, so I could use a Fighting on it. And then the other 3 Psychic I used to attach to Diancie. You use 2 for the ability, and then it just says discard up to 2 energy cards from this Pokemon. It doesn't say it has to be Psychic. So if I wanted to attack with Diancie, I would, either attack for 120 or 240 and discard 2 Fighting. And when Diancie got within range of being potentially knocked out, because it is worth 3 prizes out of 4, I would just retreat it, and there's nothing in the pre-release that stops you from, or that gets your card off the bench. They have no supporters or boss orders or anything like that. And then the other change I made was just to add some more diversity, because it is water, but the colorless energy makes it useful in this. I could use it, and 100 HP, but a big advantage is the second attack, targeted die from Prinpilp, it allows you to attack the bench. So, or against the fire deck, that does 140 because of the weakness. So that's actually came into play. I actually won against a fire deck just using this the entire game, because I was able to get it up to 3, and I was doing 140, and the Cerulege in that deck only has 140, so I was able to KO everything very quickly. And then just due to the bulk, I decked out a dark deck using the Mega Diancie, and then the second round I didn't even use the Mega Diancie. I was just able to take out the dark deck with that build. So we went a little bit different. I like to try and create some variation. It just kind of keeps things interesting to see something different rather than everyone playing the same deck, and maybe adding a supporter or a Pokemon. We added 4. My son, he went against a fighting deck where the guy actually swapped out half the cards for fire because he pulled the Charizard. So he was using a Charizard and a Flygon. So it didn't really work out for him too well, because he needed to discard a lot of fire energy for Charizard to hit for anything. But it was just cool to see something different, and that's why I enjoy the pre-releases. You get to see some variation, and nobody's got a significant advantage outside of if they pulled a Mega, and then they if you've pulled a usable Mega, not all the time you did. I made this Mega usable based on its attack, not specifying it needed to discard Psychic energy. It just says discard 2 energy, or up to 2 energy, so it was hitting for 120 or 240 depending on how much energy I discarded, and it worked out pretty well. So I'm not saying look for this if you've got the fighting deck. That was just what I did. But the fact that this only needs 1 Psychic and then the rest colorless was a good pull, and then these being colorless energy and helping you out against the fire deck, which the fighting deck with no changes should beat the fire deck no problem, because you're making them draw so much, and the fire deck already needs to draw a lot just to be able to use Cerulege's attack. So I just did this again just to change things up and keep it fun. So let me know in the comments down below, what deck did you have, what changes did you make, and how'd you do? I'm going to try and go to 1 more pre-release and hope to get the fire deck. I know that's the most difficult one to use, but hey, it'll be fun nonetheless. So appreciate it, guys, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.